I'm the Associate Director of Development at the Catholic Education Foundation. And thank you for joining us here today. So if this is the first time you are joining us, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. The Catholic Education Foundation provides tuition awards to thousands of students every year, thanks to the support of our donors. We are offering these little virtual field trips into our schools to showcase our creative and resilient administrators, teachers, students, families, and our awesome creative, strategic partners and partner organizations who are also working with our kids in our schools, really impacting their lives. And if you want to see more about our schools and these programs, you can watch the recordings of our previous season at cefdn.org/coffeewithcef, which is where you likely signed up and RSVP'd to come here today. So all of those recordings are right there under the RSVP button. And now I am really excited to introduce our guests this morning. We have Nan Young, Gerri Wendel, Carol Dailey, and Nancy Kuria. So Nan and Gerri are from Artret, and I just showed a few photos of some students' work with Artret. Nan grew up in a Reformed Jewish home in LA. Her mom worked at Wilshire Boulevard Temple, where she interacted with a covey of well-known interreligious humanitarian movers and shakers who frequently were over for dinner, Scrabble, and intense discussion. Together, this group, with support from the LA Archdiocese, created the Skirball Institute on American Values and the Catholic Jewish Women's Dialogue, which is now called the Catholic Jewish Women's Conference. I want to add, if you've never been to it, it is an excellent conference, and I was very excited to hear that Nan's family was involved in this, because I've been before, and it was a really awesome experience. So, and Nan graduated from UC Santa Cruz with a Bachelor in Theater Arts. She went on to teach English and drama at Chadwick School in Palos Verdes, where she co-created the school's first summer arts program. And her child experiences, college days, and a decade of teaching school all set the stage for Artret. Nan's love for the arts and how they support the underbelly of social justice has kept her active in writing, theater, and music. We also have Gerri Wendel, and Gerri is one of 8 children from St. Louis, Missouri. Her parents instilled in the family the absolute necessity and passion for social justice, and she grew up with pictures of Martin Luther King Jr., the Berrigan brothers, and Archbishop or Saint Oscar Romero on her wall. Gerri attended St. Louis University and studied industrial organizational psychology and business. Gerri and her husband have 2 girls who went to Lorena High School in Thousand Oaks, and 2 boys who went to Loyola High School in LA, which was a huge commitment, driving from Thousand Oaks. And Gerri started Artret with a parent volunteer in 1994, and then started working with Nan in 1998. So, and then we're also really honored to have today Carol Dailey, who is part of the Porteous Family Foundation. It was started in 1993 by John B. and Ann Weber Porteous for charitable, religious, and educational purposes, with an emphasis on Catholic charities and charities in Southern California. Carol is the foundation secretary, lives in Culver City, mother of 2, and has always been involved with her community. She served on parent-teacher boards for St. Augustine Elementary School, it's in Culver City, and St. Monica High School. She was the treasurer of Culver City Little League and had leadership positions in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts of America, and she's continued to volunteer at St. Augustine with their art program. And as the foundation secretary, she works directly with grant recipients like CEF, as well as teaching her children, nieces, and nephews about philanthropy and the importance of giving back. And we have Nancy Kuria here from Saints Peter and Paul School, and Nancy's been there for 20 years, and 13 of those years as the principal, and 7 years as a science and math teacher. She's Kenyan born and naturalized American, and she's the only Catholic among her siblings and notes that she discovered her faith through elementary school, which shows just the importance of our Catholic schools in forming faithful adults. She's a graduate of Kenyatta and Nairobi University, respectively, and migrated to the United States in 1998. She's assisted at Cal State Long Beach in African Americans Cultural Studies Department, and that's where she earned her California teaching credentials. And she loves sports, and she enjoys seeing students partake in different sporting activities. So thank guys all for being here today. We are thrilled to have you. So I have lots of questions for you this morning, but my first question is, what are you drinking this morning and what have you got in your cup? Nan, could you start us off?
I'm drinking hot chocolate, and here's my I love you, I love you, I love you cup.
Very sweet. That's a nice message this morning. And Gerri, what have you got today?
I'm drinking a caramel vanilla. It was between this cup and my big Lebowski cup, but I decided my peace cup was more appropriate for today. And because it kind of describes where we are, it says peace. It does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. So I think we're all trying to find some peace in this chaos we're living in today.
And Carol, what have you got this morning? Got a lot of guests today, so we're gonna have to shuffle around with the unmuting in the muting.
I'm just drinking a Starbucks breakfast blend that I usually have every morning, and my cup is looking very old and tired, but I've had it for probably 25 years, this coffee cup, and I just love it because it has birds and birdhouses and whatever, and it's just a nice cheery cup for the morning. So that's it.
Thank you. And Nancy, what have you got this morning?
Oh,
There we
I'm
go.
making a Kenyan blend of a tea. I come from a family that grows tea. So this is from home and to Southern California and to Catholic education. Cheers.
Great.
Thank you. And I wanted to introduce one more very important person who is here with us this morning, and that's Father Claude Williams, and he is from St. Peter and Paul. And Father Claude, could you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So my name is Father Claude, and yes, I collaborate with Nancy. Nancy's our principal for, as you just heard, 12 years. I'm now in my 3rd year as rector of the school, and so we have a sort of shared model of administration, and I'm happy to be part of our St. Peter and Paul community, and I am drinking actually water, warm water, which is what I usually do in the mornings, in a cup to remind me of my one trip to Hawaii. And so I'm looking forward to going back. That was 5 years ago, and I'm overdue. And so good morning to everyone again.
Good morning. Thank you, Father Claude, for being with us today. So now I have some more questions for you all. I'm going to start with Nan. Nan, could you tell us about the history of Artret?
So I want to say that I think it's a testimony of how good work and some foresight and trust and response to a community can lead to great things. And it's a story with a silver lining. So today we have a building. We teach thousands of kids in so many different ways, but it really begins with, I started off as a classroom teacher, as you mentioned, and I worked in a summer program, and I had to leave that job because I moved to Thousand Oaks, and I thought, oh gosh, what am I going to do? I'm leaving my life. I was so upset having to move from a career I thought I would be in forever to a community I'd never heard of. However, even though I felt pretty rudderless, I found that knowing how to volunteer made a very big difference in my life. So I started volunteering at what was my son's elementary school. I wanted my daughter to be able to attend that school. She has cerebral palsy. So I made a little deal with the principal, and I said, I'll give you some art classes, a little arts program, if you will build a ramp and put some bars up in the bathroom so my daughter can eventually attend the school. Out of that came two great things. One, the first school that was made accessible in the greater Conejo Valley, because ADA didn't exist then, and Artret was born. And it was really born as a little school program, just for not just my kids' classroom, but at the school. Volunteers joined me. Eventually we had what became a substantial program with the help of many people, including teachers and the principal. We eventually, I'd say, I'm looking at a little timeline here, and that was like 1990, 91. By 92, we really had planted the seeds for what would become Artret. By 95, we were hired in other schools. I really had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that we were doing good work and creating wonderful art projects and lessons. At the core of it all has been art as a prop, art for all the kids, art for a way of thinking, for a way to establish communication as social justice, to express ideas, to exchange ideas, and that all kids were capable of being creative. It also was an opportunity for kids to learn metaphors. And we've always, since the beginning, said our art isn't really about just the art. It's about what kids can learn when they're doing art, how they can share ideas with each other, how they can sequence projects, how they can learn life skills doing an art project, how good it feels to complete an idea, to finish something, not leave it undone, because so many things are left undone in our lives. So these became like our purposeful philosophies. Art for all and expression, and it could be used for big ideas and life skills. So we grew and we grew, and by the year 2000, we had a pretty much, I'd say, a wonder team of volunteers, a staff. Gerri and I had worked together. She's been my solid cohort really from the beginning. And we love this idea that I'm Jewish and she's Catholic. And our worlds have really blended religiously, philosophically, how we have put families together and how we see the world. I think we have really matched senses of having grown up in social justice families. This was a natural fit for both of us. So in about 1906, we just continued to grow. Gerri and I learned a lot about business.
Or 2006.
2006, yeah, sorry.
We're not that old.
We were introduced to the Catholic Education Foundation. And that's where I want her to take off on the story.
Is that okay, Katie?
Is that okay?
Yes, please. We also have a video, so just let me know when you're ready for me to play it.
We'll do that after
Of course.
So as Nan said, we expanded. We ended up in Ojai and all the elementary schools there. And then a family from Ojai moved to Holy Cross School up in Ventura. And the parent who had been the volunteer in Ojai went to Sister Yurgulis, who was the principal at the time, and said, there's this great art program. Can we bring Artret to Holy Cross? So we brought Artret to Holy Cross Elementary in Ventura, and then Sister invited me to go to a principal's meeting of all the Catholic schools in the area. So I went to St. Sebastian in Santa Paula and did a presentation of Artret. I brought, different ideas of what we did and examples of what we did. And in the audience was Pat Livingston, who was the, I believe, superintendent of elementary school education for the Archdiocese. And so afterwards I met Pat, and she said the program looked wonderful, but that was kind of the end of my conversation with her. From there, we actually picked up Our Lady of the Assumption in Ventura, and we also picked up St. Mary Magdalene and Camarillo. So our Catholic schools were spreading because we were primarily a public school program to start with. So about 4 years later, we get a call from the Archdiocese saying that there is a family, the Porteous family, whose parents had left money for arts education in the inner city schools. And Carol can correct me if I'm wrong in all this, and other programs as well. And Pat Livingston said, I knew in the back of my mind there was a program. And they invited us to be a part of that program. The problem is we were not a not-for-profit at that time, and so we could not accept a grant. So we started our first year with 3 pilot schools. I think it was St. Teribius, Our Lady of Guadalupe on Hazard, and St. Cecilia. We did a pilot as we were getting our approval as a not-for-profit. And at the end of that year, we got our status as a not-for-profit. We grew to 6 schools the next year. We added St. Odilia and San Miguel the year after that. And we've just grown since that point. Carol Dailey, whom we met in 2006 from the very beginning, has just been one of our strongest supporters, such a believer in the arts when she tells her own story, a believer in the arts, and has been committed to us from just the very beginning. When Sister Rachel, I have to share this with you, when Sister Rachel left, if you know her, she's just a hoot. She's at Villanova now, but she gave me this nun statue, which actually looks like Sister Rachel. I love it. But we grew, and with our program with the Catholic Education Foundation, we first were a program of a site instruction where we went in and taught the kids. But we realized more and more kids needed to be serviced and met. The needs of their schools needed to be met. So we developed a program called Artret for Teachers, where we train teachers at Bishop Connolly High School once in the fall and once in the spring. The teachers come in the fall on a Saturday. They learn 3 lessons that they then take back to their school, and we give them all the materials, all the lessons. They become the students, they learn the lessons, and then they come back in the spring for 3 more lessons. And so we had these 2 branches, Artret for Teachers and site instruction, and we grew to 30 schools with the Porteous Family Foundation. We also work with Specialty Family Foundation and have 8 schools with Specialty Family Foundation. So Artret has been blessed to really have a presence in the inner city. Also up in Santa Barbara, we're at Notre Dame, and we're as far south as Nancy Kuria's school, St. Peter and Paul. We're in Palmdale as well. So we have a video to show you, and what this video, I just want to kind of tell you, it's mainly about CEF, and it starts out with Artret for Teachers, that training, and you'll see a lot of familiar faces. We have lots of shots of teachers and principals working. Look for Antonio Felix, who looks today like he probably did in his 2nd grade school picture. That is the most youthful man I've ever met. And then it shifts to a team building program we had with CEF. So you'll recognize, I think, Johnny, you're in this one. You'll recognize people from that team building program that we had at our studio with CEF. And then it shows you some of the students working on our site instruction program. And then it pivots to what we are doing now during COVID.
Thank you. I love that video. It's so beautiful. So I want to talk to Carol a little bit. Carol, you have been a huge proponent of the arts in Catholic schools and help bring Artret to many Catholic schools. So how did you and the Porteous Family Foundation become involved with art?
Thank you for having me, and thank you, Nan and Gerri. I love you guys so much. Your video is always makes me cry. You know, I think I put in my bio, my parents, mostly my mom, started the foundation in 1993, and she made all the decisions. She was the president and CEO of the foundation, and she made all the decisions regarding the foundation until up to the week before she died. And then it became our job. And with the help of our dad, who died 5 years after my mom passed, he sort of, we had some meetings, we tried to figure some things out. There's 4 siblings, I have 3 siblings, and one lives in Northern California, and the other 2 are in Orange County, and I'm here in LA area. So it was a little bit of a challenge to figure out what to do and try to stick with what our mom wanted and why she formed the foundation in the first place. And then I'm not sure if it was like divine intervention or whatever, but at the time that we were going through all of this, Kathy Anderson was the director of the Catholic Education Foundation, and Kathy Anderson went to school with my oldest brother at Santa Clara, and they were very good friends, and my brother was friends with her and her husband. And so it sort of was like why don't we call this person? She's doing this, and maybe she knows somebody in the Archdiocese that could help us, because we did want to try to stick with some Catholic schools, because our mom was very supportive, and we all went to Catholic schools growing up, and she felt that Catholic education was very important. So we tried to stick with that sort of stuff, and that's sort of what happened, is that Kathy Anderson then knew who to call in the case of what's the lady Livingston, her last name was Livingston, Pat Livingston, yeah. So so basically that's kind of what happened, is that it was like, oh, well, I know this person and this person. And the beauty of it, and what I really, really love, even to this day, in talking with Nan and Gerri and what happens with Artret, is that it happens like now. We're not waiting for someone to okay it. We're not trying to figure out exactly the right person to go to. They're doing it now. I mean, basically, when we finally talked with Kathy Anderson and figured out some things, and with Pat Livingston, I think we started in those first few schools like right away. I mean, I met them, I think, in August, and they were there in September, October, starting at these schools with a plan of what to do. And that is so important to me, because, and my family, because it's like, what we're not, you know, we're able to help with the finances, but we want to see some results. And so it's like they give results like immediately. And the kids, you know, they don't want to wait. But schools, I don't know, I mean, you know, you want to have the programs so that everyone's benefiting like right away. And I think it's just been a phenomenal, even to this day, when, you know, when everything happened and the schools closed down in the spring, it was Nan and Gerri were like, oh, this is what we're doing now, you know, and they just picked up in a different way and kept feeding the art projects to the kids. Is just like, okay, that's amazing. You know? So that's pretty much how we got started with them.
Thank you. I want to remind everybody, if you have any questions for any of our guests today, you can put your questions or your comments in the chat feature, and we can visit those questions later in the program. So don't be afraid. If you have anything to ask, please do it. So Nan and Gerri, so how has Artret grown through your work with CEF specifically?
To begin with, it brought us into the heart of Los Angeles. So we're a little bit removed from Los Angeles where we live. But it brought us, it brought us thousands of kids. And that has been our core. How do we reach children? And ultimately, when you reach children, you reach families as well. So it brought us into the heart of Los Angeles. And it gave us a platform to really advance this sort of philosophy also of social justice. We could really, I think, work with the Catholic philosophies of love and faith and incorporate that into our art projects, which you can't always do in the public schools. So we have to find more complex ways to do that in the public schools, but it was really upfront in the Catholic schools. And we've loved that. It gave us a chance to work with leaders right away, because the teachers are leaders and the principals are leaders. And as Carol said, it happened very, very quickly. And our expanse into from 3 to 6 to 30 has also been relatively fast in the Catholic schools. So I think knowing that these are many of the kids, first generation, many of the kids come from poor families, it really served our mission. And it gave us an opportunity to bring what is so often more of an elitist approach to, really, I think, a huge aspect of education, the arts, to poor schools. Kids didn't have to pay lots of money to take classes. Everybody, it was across the board, pre-K to grades 8, everybody gets art. Everybody gets good materials. Everybody participates. So for us, it became a leveler, which we really have loved. So it brought in all of the students. It brought in all of the teachers in some way or another. And our principals have been very much with us on this. So from the top to the bottom or sideways, however you want to see it, everybody's been engaged and really open to what we wanted to do with the kids for the whole educational process of the arts.
I'm going to share Sal's story. Sal's story.
So Gerri, I'll tell you a wonderful story of a teacher.
So we had a teacher on our staff named Sal Solik, and we interviewed her on a given day, and it's interesting, she was tearing that day, and we kept saying, "What's going on, Sal?" And she said, "I think I've got a blocked tear duct." And as it turned out, Sal had sinus cancer, but she continued to work with us and teach with us, and teaching in these inner city Catholic schools just became her joy in a time of her life that was pretty dark, I think. But she was this woman who was spectacular in her energy and her focus on life and her love of these kids. And so when Sal passed 4 years ago.
And I must tell you, she only worked with us for about 1.5 years.
Right, but yes. And so what was very telling about that is when she passed, Artret became the recipient of any donations that people wanted to give in her memory. And because of that, we now have a program at San Gabriel Mission School that will be sustained for years because of the level of donation that came in from that. So that, and just to us, the beauty of the impact of what it meant to her as a teacher and what these kids meant to her means that she's now established a fund, a memorial fund, that we're going to be able to be in San Gabriel Mission for many, many years. So.
And I have a fun story about teaching in the Catholic school. So this is not one of our CEF schools, but our CEF schools led me to be at, I think this was at, I can't remember the painting class, Junipero Serra? Junipero Serra. High school. At the high school, through CEF schools. And I think you'll like this. So I was teaching a painting class there. I taught a number of classes. And I was teaching a painting class, and somebody asked me in the class how to make skin color with the paints. Of course, and I was, I think, the only Caucasian person on campus that day. So skin color, I said, interesting question. what is skin color? So with this group of like juniors and seniors, we got into a discussion about skin color and browns and how there's no such thing as a black skin and there's no such thing as white skin. And we ended up spending the day mixing really every possible brown you can imagine. And painting, everybody had to make their own skin color and put it on their arm, and then find a couple of people whose skin colors were different, make those colors, put it on their arm as well, and they all had to make my skin color, which was lighter than anybody else's, but still brown. And so that experience, and that went on all day long. We didn't let anybody talk about it, and it was like, what's going on in class today? So I was able to teach that same class over and over at the school. That, although it was a high school experience, but it really came out of my CEF experiences being on campuses with African American students and Hispanic students, and often being the or one of the only Caucasian people on campus. And it was, to me, of my entire teaching career, which is now really long, it probably is one of my most significant days ever, and has stayed with me. And I think about it, and I love that story. And I know those kids will remember it. And again, it was something I was able to do in this small Catholic school that I probably could not have done very easily in a public school. But I think for all of us that day, it was profound. I thought it was a cool story. Yeah.
Thank you. And so we have Nancy Kuria here, who's, on the ground in our Catholic schools down in San Pedro at Saints Peter and Paul. Nancy, how have the arts and Artret and art instruction impacted your students in your school?
First, I would like to thank Gerri, Nan, and Carol for your wonderful work. Because when we started, Ms. Capazzi has been here. She's one window over, but she's been a vice principal here for many years. When we started with art, we had the seasons of the church, and the teachers had to use their religious book to really come up with art that would help instruct in religion. And that was kind of cool. However, it was not sufficient enough to really engage the students at the level that we see they are engaged in Artret. So since we serve a community that is economically depressed, it was tough to find finances to really take care of the art and other programs that we have. So when I got a call from Teresa Fragoso from CEF, and she said, well, Nancy, since you are a recipient of CEF scholarships, your kids really qualify to join Artret. I almost danced because I was sure that our kids were going to receive one quality program. And we have gone through all the phases whereby we sent teachers to get training. Ms. Campazzi was one of those we sent to go on a Saturday morning. And then we would cut out one faculty meeting in a month so that the whole faculty would meet and we would learn from the champions or the experts who went to the training. And that is how Artret took roots at St. Peter and Paul School. It has evolved, and we have seen, now we enjoy the availability of a person who comes and teaches the art, and the teachers are excited, the kids can hardly wait. We actually plan our professional developments, factor in the fact that art cannot move. It has to stay in place. So anybody else can be moved around, but art stays stationary. So because we know the kids will be asking, how come we do not have art this week or the other week or whatever is going on? So it's exciting. I would say it has transformed the way our kids think. a couple of months ago, Father Claude asked one of our students who is in 8th grade to draw some important art for a bishop in San Pedro region. And I'm sure he will share that at some point. But to see the quality of work mind-boggling. We've also seen our students eager to participate in many competitions. About 5 years ago, we were invited to partake in the Daughters of American Revolution art competition that happens at our state and our local community, at the state level and at the national level. And we have seen the number of participants increase, and the quality of work is amazing. Last year, one of our students was ranked the 3rd in the whole of the United States. He's a little boy who is in 4th grade now, and he has not known any other way of drawing except what has been taught through Artret. So kudos to you. We'll share a picture with you at some point once I get clearance from the parents. But it is a way of celebrating what you have gone through and this gift that continues giving of Artret, because we can apply the art in our design and modeling in our STEM program. And we've seen whatever the kids are designing, that mind of art is at the back burner. You can actually see it come alive. And that is so exciting to see. I would say the teachers are the happiest when we have art, because sometimes, whether they like it or not, they sit at the back of the class and they draw with the kids. In this time of COVID-19, we have enjoyed the every other week and weekly videos that you send that really excite our kids. They look forward to it. And the comments we get from families are amazing. So, serving an economically challenged community, you cannot afford fine art programs or a program that you're able to pay. But through the generosity of CEF, John Foundation, those I can see Catherine Sanders here today, and all those other benefactors who have invested in our kids, believe me, in the future when you see the engineers, you'll be able to tell that these kids must have learned some decent art. Because if they're going to design homes, whatever it is they will design, the taste of fine art will be seen for generations to come because of your investment. So you have transformed the world, and we are grateful to you. Thank you.
I'm sharing right now some instructions for if you want to give and if you're able to give. This is Artret, and Artret also has some information on how they've pivoted in response to COVID-19 and how they are seeking volunteers and other ways of helping. And Saints Peter and Paul School website is there as well. We have one comment from Seema Perez. Our students are always excited and looking forward to Artret every month. They enjoy the time spent with their art teacher and also taking the final product, the art, home. Thank you, Nan and Gerri, for leading a wonderful program. And Seema was with us recently because she is from St. Odelia School. Now, we do have a question from Sister Stacy Ryman. She is at Nativity School in El Monte. She wants to know how her school could become part of this incredible program. Gerri and Ann, could you answer that for us? Here we go.
Okay. Can you hear us? Okay.
Yeah.
Just write us a letter, send us an email to info@artrek, arttrek.org. info@artrek.org, just write to us. I just have to add something here, because what we're doing, this gathering of people, this recognition of the importance of the arts and how many kids get the art through the Porteous Family Foundation and CEF, I just want to return back to Carol, because she has been so consistent with her giving since 2006. It's a very long time. And she stays abreast of what we're doing. She visits the schools. She gets reports from us. She responds when we have requests or it needs some information or want to share something with her. She's so much more than a donor, because she's curious and interested and really believes in what we're doing and she's making possible for us to do. So I just think that perhaps you can send her pictures on occasion or send us something for her and her extended family. They remain very, very interested. They're not distanced with this at all. And at COVID Pivot, she was right with us on what we needed to do to change, to support communities in need. So it doesn't happen easily, and it doesn't happen thoughtlessly that we just get to go on and on. This is something that between CEF and the Porteous Family Foundation has been a significant, very significant investment for 15 years. More than that, I think now, more than that. So I just have to give her a little recognition there, and thanks to CEF for working with us when its focus has so much been on tuition, that this is sort of a sidestep, a tangent, but it helps with the tuition because it's something that kids want to go do in a school. So,
and just to add, when COVID hit overnight, everything shut down, period. And so what we were doing day in and day out stopped. And we were called upon by our city to help actually turn our studio, I know St. Odelia's been at our studio for a field trip, I think, into a hub for packaging produce and lunches for a local community of families that are at risk for gang infiltration and influence. And we did that immediately, but we also gave them a little art lesson. When we would pass out their lunch or their toiletries and their produce, they'd also get art. And we called upon Carol and said, we're making this shift, and you've, supported us financially until the end of the year, it's March. And she didn't even take a breath. She said, done, keep going, do it. And I will tell you, all of our partner schools, all of them, I think.
And your schools as well, you guys.
Yes, because the schools do contribute to these programs. Everyone said, absolutely, we don't need any money back. You're still serving the community. I mean, we were serving them at that point by feeding them and giving them lunches and produce, but we were also giving them the arts. And then for our schools, we started with these little online lessons that we did all spring. And now we have delivered to the schools through the donors, these little art bags that the kids are at home now doing lessons from home. And we're getting pictures all the time that are absolutely precious of these kids sitting in their kitchen doing the art. So again, Carol didn't hesitate to say, you're still meeting your mission, and I'm in.
And your principals didn't hesitate to support us.
All the principals. Yeah.
It's just like one thing leads to another. It's really been amazing.
Father Claude, I wanted to go to you. Do you have something to share?
Oh, I do. Actually, I wasn't expecting to show this, but I have a copy. So since Nancy mentioned, we had last spring, once we were already under our COVID protocol, we had to modify a pastoral visit from our regional bishop, Bishop Mark Trudeau, who was coming to do our May crowning. And so we had to do a virtual May crowning. And besides the standard thank you cards that we did, I thought, thinking in the artistic way that I sometimes do, kind of often, that maybe it would be good if one of our students could represent his coat of arms. And so I asked around, and I wanted something that would be appropriate. And so one of our students did the original sketch, actually the original drawing of Bishop Mark's coat of arms.
Oh my God.
And then I'm a bit of a fanatic for filters on cell phones and computers. And so I modified the color scheme. So it was a joint project, again, kind of in line with the way we do things here at St. Peter and Paul. Our patrons, we've got 2, so that's teamwork. And then we've got a few administrators, and so we like to do things together. And so we were able to present this to Bishop Mark, and he wrote a very nice note back that he has it framed in his office. And so we're proud of Ms. Gogwe, our fifth grader who did this last year. And so,
Wow.
so yes, there's a lot of practical application for the program.
Thank you for sharing that. That is absolutely beautiful. And yes, Father Claude and Nancy, you have such an amazing school. I wish we could do a field trip for real. But someday we will, because I would love to see these students in action, because your stories are absolutely amazing. I wanted to check, Johnny, do we have any other questions? Or yes, we have a question.
I was saying,
Nothing at all.
you have an open invitation to join us. Come and visit.
Thank you. Any more questions this morning? Nothing at all. Well, I wanted to ask then, Gerri and Nan, so can you describe to us what Artret is doing this school year and what your plans are? Obviously, in the short term, I don't know that any of us have really long-term plans yet, but what are you doing this year to meet the needs of the students and bring art to the students?
Well, we are, at this point, we're not planning to hold our meetings that get held at Bishop Connolly right now, at least. Maybe in the spring we'll be able to, but we aren't doing that now, which reminds us that we want to thank Diane Teckham. I think she's there because she's our support at Bishop Connolly. And Diane, thank you. We've been training there for, I don't know, ever, as far as I can remember. And she's really our hostess at this, and it means a lot to us. So we are sending art in boxes, little art lessons to many of the schools for this year. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of ways they can approach their art lessons. They can just read them and do them. They have materials in the bag as well. So they can not touch the computer at all, which is a little respite for them. And I'm sure many of them are doing that. Or they can go to a YouTube video that's available to them and watch it online and do the art lesson. So there are different approaches for them. We are encouraging in the art lessons the kids not to spend a lot of time online. So we give them resources and examples, lots of stuff to look at in their little art bag. We know that they are spending so much time already on the computer that if they just wanted to be in their bedrooms or, on their own or work with the whole family doing art, they can do that. So our art lessons remain pretty rich still. And, you don't have the teacher who interacts with the class in the same way, but the lessons are well written, the resource material is solid, and we're getting a lot of feedback from the schools because the kids are doing the art, and that's been really important to us. And we'll have to continue with that until there's some kind of change. We can do Zoom classes, and we have been able to do a few for schools that want Zoom classes. But mostly, I think the kids are sort of chock full of time on the computer. So we're holding on to hands-on, use materials, be creative, send us pictures.
We included, when we gave the kids a little art bag, we also included a teacher bag for the teachers with some extra resources, some questions maybe to stimulate conversation about what that lesson is. And we didn't want it to be a burden on the teacher to have to teach it. Some of them do because they just love doing that. But what we have found is that a lot of the schools, the teacher will introduce the lesson, just the idea at the beginning of the week saying we're going to work on button bouquets this week. You guys saw in the video these button bouquets. They were actual buttons that they did flowers around. And so she said, but on Friday we'll have an art show. And so the kids do it at their pace that week. But on Friday they get together and you just see this zoom of button bouquets. And they're so proud of their work. And their work's fantastic.
For us, it's been really interesting to see how well the kids do on their own, that they can follow the instructions, that they can look at the resources. Yeah, and I see a lot of people shaking their heads, that largely their experience. I mean, if you're in kindergarten, you're going to get help. If you're pre-K, you're going to get help. But from first, second grade up, they are experienced enough. They have some background knowledge that they can do a lot of this work on their own. And we're really careful not to write lessons that are so complex that they cannot be successful. So we've been pretty impressed with what the kids could do.
Thank you. We did get a comment. Richard Montiel says, from St. Odelia, says, the passion that the instructors bring to the classroom is awesome. Keep up the great work. Oh, we have one more question really quick before I wrap up. What's Artret's operating budget for the year?
This lot year? Less than it was last year.
At least we have a sense of humor about it.
Well, it's gone down to pretty much nothing. I mean, we are relying on our grantors. We do have some programs that we're still doing, some Zoom classes, but our traditional source of income has been cut significantly. Our staff has gone from 25 down to 6.
So in general, I think we are somewhere around
700.
Yeah, 680, 690.
About like 680,000 for our budget for the year.
And we spend
679,000.
Yeah.
And we are under 250,000 maybe this year. And again, that is to meet, all of our needs and our staffing. And we're not quite sure how we'll make, there's a question in terms of the rest of the year in terms of having to cut maybe some staff hours. But we're just, once we think it's going to get really tough, something happens.
We are going to be okay in the end.
Totally fine.
I mean, it's going to be like, but it'll be a struggle. But, this building was donated to us. That's number one. So we're not stuck paying rent. And we've just applied to have property taxes exempted from us because we're a nonprofit owning the building, and we think that will come through. That's been a year and a half in the making, but we think it'll happen in January. And I'm guessing we're going to end up with about $320,000 this year for everybody. So we're cutting, our staff is way down. The 3 directors we're in reduced salaries and time to some degree as well.
But the fact that we own our building keeps us sustainable. That is just our greatest hope, that we are here for the long haul.
We're here
because we have this space.
And people are now calling us. They're trying to figure out what they can do. Senior classes on Zoom. I feel that especially after the holidays and people are sort of trying to figure out how to normalize life more, because I think everybody thought by September we'd be fine. How we can normalize things. People are going to continue to get back to us for more Zoom classes, or we're doing a few things in person now, small groups. We have a sheltered group of girls and boys who come in here now. They're at a state shelter, and they've started small classes here. So things are going to work.
Right.
People need the arts a lot. They really need to have some kind of personal expression and to feel good about something that they're doing. I have to add that, I kind of feel like the way Carol has kept our program alive with you guys, and we've been able to find a way to do it. We have a group of volunteers from National Charity League that come in here, and they have allowed us to do the program with little art bags, because with, I don't know how many thousands of little art lessons we've had to make, 30,000, and each one has to be cut, printed, paper clipped, bagged, and 30,000 lessons. We could never have staffed that. Right. So there are people who have come in and sort of helped save us. So, Carol is a person who said, just do it, figure out how to do it. And then we said, well, we can't unless we get help from volunteers. And then the National Charity League came in and said, okay, we're here to help, just do it. So we're kind of finding the community says, figure out how to do it and we'll make it happen.
Right.
Well, thank you so much. This has been excellent, and I know I'm keeping everybody a little over time, but I don't know that anybody minds. I think we're really enjoying hearing about art right now in schools. And as always, I want to thank everybody in here for your support, for being here today, and for supporting our Catholic schools. And, you know, Father Claude, Nancy, all of these principals and teachers that we see on here today, and all of the teachers and principals who are working really hard right now, are really trying to reach out to families and making it possible for any student who wants to go to a Catholic school is able to go and is able to finance that education. So, and if you can give right now and visit our website, 100% of your donation will support CEF tuition awards. And I do have, well, one, we have an announcement to make. We have some folks that you may have seen before, because they've been to a couple of CEF events. Next week, we have Our Lady of Talpa School, and that's Principal John Rojas and Alan and Jocelyn, who are 8th grade students now. And that is them right here. They have been speakers before, and they're always excellent. That's next Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. And I have an announcement of a personal nature. Next week is going to be my last coffee with CEF, and I will be leaving the Catholic Education Foundation. So I want to thank everybody for your support. I hope that you can join us next week as well. I'm going on to a new adventure at Flint Ridge Sacred Heart Academy. So I have really cherished my Wednesday mornings for the last several months, and I just want to say how grateful I am for all of you who are coming here to support us, to support CEF, and to make an impact with our Catholic school students and tell the stories of all of the wonderful things that are going on and all the challenges that our students, teachers, principals, families, communities are facing right now. So you can RSVP at cefvn.org/coffee with CEF. I'm leaving Coffee with CEF in good hands with Johnny, and I hope to see you all again next week. Thank you very much. So
thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will continue Coffee with CEF. Yes.
Yes, the show must go on. So I
It
just
will
want to
go
assure
on.
everyone of that. We will continue. So, but thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it, and come back next week.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.